Today is the day we show the Orlando Magic some love, guys. As always, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts down below, tell me what team I should cover next, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We do know that the Orlando Magic last season were 4th place in the Southeast Division. They weren't necessarily a dumpster fire team, but they were a team that if you played them, you expected to win. That being said, they did have a good young core. They have since let go Bol Bol, but that's not what we're going to focus on this video. Bol Bol had his own separate video on my channel. Go check that out. The most important thing on this team is how Paolo Banchero ends up developing. With that being said, that's not the only important piece they have on this roster. I can tell you that. According to ESPN, what's been officially said is Markelle Fultz starting the season at the 1, Gary Harris at the 2, Franz Wagner at the 3, Paolo Banchero at the 4, and Wendell Carter Jr. at the 5. Coming off the bench, you have Cole Anthony at the 1, Anthony Black at the 2, Jett Howard at the 3, Joe Ingles at the 4, and Goga at the 5. Along with a little bit of the mix-in of Jalen Suggs coming in as some relief on the guard side of things. Now, if we look back at the identity of this team last season, you know that the heart and soul is going to be Paolo. He did average 20 and 7, so it is reasonable to assume that he's going to take another step up coming into this season. Last season, you did have Franz Wagner averaging 18.5 points, Wendell Carter averaging 15 points, Markelle Fultz averaging 14, and Cole Anthony coming off the bench averaging 13. Moritz Wagner also gave you 10.5 at the center spot, and Jalen Suggs gave you 10 as well coming from the shooting guard spot. Now, Jalen Suggs has unfortunately been moved slightly down on the depth chart just because they got better at that spot, having added in Gary Harris, who is expected to take that next step and show people just who he is as a player. But we cannot go ahead and count out just how much depth that provides this team. Now, I'm not going to be the one to say that they're going to be a dark horse in the playoffs because I don't necessarily think that they're that ready. They just don't seem to have that veteran presence and that system perfectly in place for them to get the job done. But it is reasonable to say that you could see them in a good play-in game. Now, we do know that Jay Scrubb did get signed onto a contract way back in March. They signed Joe Ingles this offseason, and Anthony Black and Jett Howard were signed to the rookie scale contracts. So they do have a little bit extra stuff that you might not expect to come to the forefront as a big move at the moment, but come down later on down the road, these things could play a role in how their season turns out this year and in seasons to come. It is very interesting to see how this team develops because they're not as talented as, say, the OKC Thunder's room or really even the Jazz's room, because you kind of see what the Jazz are cooking up right now. The Rockets are a little bit of a confusion fest, but you saw a little bit of a direction from them with the Fred VanVleet pickup and whatnot. They're trying to add a more consistent veteran presence, some more competent players to kind of guide that youth and bring out the best in Jalen Green. The Magic are kind of low-key under the radar. Nobody really loves to play in Orlando. They're not really cared for. Nobody really pays much attention to them unless you're down there in the area. And even then, some people down in the area have other teams as their favorites. But that's why I wanted to make this video, just to point out and do a little spot checkup before the season starts for what we can expect out of them. Which is why I also said I'm expecting more of a play-in team out of them. While we would like to sit there and appreciate the fact that Paolo gives you 20 and Franz Wagner is also capable of giving you 20, it's also important to pay attention to just how packed their rooms are. They do have some very consistent depth that all players are roughly around the same spot. Like I said, Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, and Jalen Suggs all didn't end up being prolific scorers, but they were solid minutes and rotational players across the board. I love the fact that Markelle Fultz has finally found a home, especially since the way his career started with the whole situation as far as, is he injured, is he not injured, did he just forget how to shoot, because he was a really good player in college and high school. But now we're seeing him average almost 6 assists a game, 14 points, shooting decently from the field. He seems to have a swagger about him. He's ready to play. He comes in and night out. He's defensively capable, and we're just seeing some good, solid play out of their guards in general. Add to the mix the fact that Paolo was a knockout of the park and a shoo-in as a draft pick right out the gate. Franz Wagner getting the job done on his end, and Wendell Carter Jr., who was originally on the Bulls, finding a niche area where he can produce effectively, and most people aren't going to sit there and criticize him game in and game out. And you have a very interesting camaraderie of players right there. The East is also pretty deep at this point right now, so I think that's also going to play into it. But it would not surprise me if they were as high as, say, 7. I think a lot of chips have to roll their way, and a lot of people have to make that next step and develop pretty well. But it would not necessarily surprise me if they managed to get the job done. Now, they are a decent shooting team. They're not necessarily great. Obviously, Paolo's not known to be a three-point shooter. He did end up shooting 4 threes a game and shot right at 30%, but you did have Franz shooting 4.5 threes a game at 36%. Wendell Carter shooting 4 threes a game at 36%, and Cole Anthony shooting 36% on 3.4 threes a game. Now, that's not the most impressive part. Adding Gary Harris to the mix and seeing how he ends up playing out means that you'll have somebody that shoots 4.5 threes a game, but at a 43% clip. It should be not necessarily the most insane thing in the world, but it would be intriguing to see just how much Gary Harris's shooting allows for them to make moves and create different sorts of spacing abilities to allow Paolo to operate more on the inside, to allow more drives downhill, to allow more finishes at the basket and more quality shot selections just in general in their offensive scheme, because we see at certain times they seem kind of blocky. Obviously, I said that Markelle Fultz leads their team in assists with 5.7, but you would like to see that number go up, or just across the board from an entire team standpoint, making that extra pass, getting that hockey assist, making things easier for your teammates. Defensively, I trust them. I would like to see them get a little bit better scheme-wise, just everybody doing their part, not seeming tired, not getting unfocused in the game. There's going to be a lot of games where they're just outmatched, they're outclassed, and the guys that they're playing against just are better at the game than them. They're more skilled, they're more seasoned, they're veterans. But I would like to see them still dogfight it out, learn something from those games, and come back the next game and not get completely waxed. I think that this roster is capable of doing that, and that's why I am prepared to say that I would not be surprised to see them in the playoffs. But you guys tell me what you think in the comments down below. If you're an Orlando Magic fan, go ahead and follow them. I like to do some more checkups for each team because they are a small market organization. Now, obviously, the bigger channels are going to be the ones that cover the blockbuster deals, the bigger teams in the league, and the guaranteed playoff contenders. And I will give my takes on those as well. But I would also like to show some love to the little guys out there on the field because they are teams that matter. With that being said, thanks for tuning in this video. Make sure to like, comment your thoughts, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, join the Patreon, and good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.